Ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest tragedies in life is when people don't recognize their own worth and potential. It's like walking around with a treasure chest in your hands, but never opening it because you assume it's empty. Let me tell you something, there's greatness inside of you. Yes, you. Not the person sitting next to you, not your neighbor down the street, but you. The problem is that so many of us spend our lives denying ourselves, not because we don't have potential, but because we don't believe in it. You see, recognizing your worth isn't about arrogance or thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about understanding that you have something special to offer. You were created with a purpose, with talents and gifts that no one else has in the same way. But here's the thing, if you don't value what's inside of you, how can you expect anyone else to? I once heard about a man who worked tirelessly in his job, always giving his best, always going the extra mile. But he never asked for a raise, never sought a promotion, and never believed he was worthy of more. One day, his boss pulled him aside and said, "Why haven't you applied for the management position? You're more than qualified." Do you know what the man said? "I didn't think I was ready for it." That right there is what I'm talking about, folks. He had the skills, the experience, and the respect of his peers, but he didn't see it. He was denying himself the opportunity to grow because he didn't recognize his own worth. Now let me ask you, how many times have you done the same thing? How many opportunities have you let slip by because you thought, "I'm not good enough," or "someone else is better suited for this"? It's time to stop that kind of thinking. You've got to stop standing in your own way. You've got to recognize that you have value, that you are capable, and that you deserve a seat at the table. You see, recognizing your worth is the first step to unlocking your potential. When you know what you're capable of, you start to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You start to take chances, to push yourself and to step outside your comfort zone. And that's where growth happens. That's where success happens. But here's the thing, recognizing your worth isn't just about your abilities or achievements. It's also about understanding that your worth isn't determined by external factors. It's not about how much money you make, what kind of car you drive, or what others think of you. Your worth comes from within. It's about knowing who you are, embracing your strengths, and accepting your imperfections. Because let me tell you something, nobody's perfect. And that's okay. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy. Now, some of you might be thinking, "But Zig, I've made mistakes. I've failed. How can I feel worthy when I've messed up so many times?" Let me tell you something, failure doesn't diminish your worth. In fact, it's often through failure that we learn our greatest lessons and discover our true potential. Every successful person you admire has failed at some point. The difference is, they didn't let those failures define them. They used them as stepping stones to greater things. So how do you start recognizing your worth? First, take a good, hard look at yourself and identify your strengths. What are you good at? What makes you unique? Write it down if you have to. Then start affirming those qualities every day. Remind yourself of your value, even when you don't feel like it. And most importantly, surround yourself with people who see your worth and encourage you to reach your full potential. Because the truth is, it's a lot easier to recognize your value when you have others reminding you of it. In conclusion, my friends, let me leave you with this. You were not put on this earth to play small. You were not meant to live a life of self-doubt and limitation. You have greatness inside of you, but it's up to you to recognize it. Stop denying yourself the opportunities, the growth, and the happiness that you deserve. Start embracing your worth and living up to your potential. Because when you do, you'll not only change your own life, you'll inspire others to do the same. And that, my friends, is how you truly make a difference. I'll see you at the top. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's one thing I want you to hear loud and clear, it's this: the greatest barrier to your success isn't the world around you, it's the world within you. So many of us are held back, not by a lack of ability or opportunity, but by the limits we place on ourselves. These limiting beliefs are like invisible chains keeping us from pursuing our dreams and living the life we're capable of. And let me tell you something, it's time to break those chains. You see, limiting beliefs don't start out as big, bold declarations like "I'll never succeed" or "I'm not good enough." No, they're sneaky. They creep in through the little thoughts we entertain every day. Maybe someone told you as a child that you'd never amount to much, and you believed it. Maybe you failed at something once, and you let that failure define you. Or maybe you've just grown comfortable playing it safe because stepping out of your comfort zone feels scary. Whatever the case, those beliefs have taken root. and they're holding you back. I remember a story about a circus elephant that was tied to a small stake in the ground. Despite its incredible strength, the elephant never tried to break free. Why? Because when it was a baby, it had been tied to that same stake. Back then, it wasn't strong enough to pull it out, so it learned to believe that the stake was unmovable. Even as an adult, when it had more than enough power to break free, the belief that it couldn't held it captive. Now, isn't that how many of us live? We let old experiences, past failures, or other people's opinions convince us that we're not capable of more. But here's the truth, folks, those beliefs are lies. They're stories we've told ourselves over and over again until we started to believe them. And the good news is, just like we learned those beliefs, we can unlearn them. But it starts with awareness. You've got to identify the beliefs that are holding you back. Maybe it's the thought that you're not smart enough, or that you don't have what it takes, or that success is reserved for other people. Whatever it is, call it out, shine a light on it, because once you recognize it for what it is, you can start to challenge it. And let me tell you something, challenging those beliefs takes courage. It's not always easy to face your fears and doubts head on. But you've got to remind yourself that those beliefs aren't facts. Just because you've failed before doesn't mean you'll fail again. Just because someone else doubted you doesn't mean they were right. You have the power to rewrite your story, but it starts with believing in yourself. One of the best ways to overcome limiting beliefs is to take action. You see, action is the antidote to fear and doubt. When you start doing the things you thought you couldn't do, you begin to realize that those beliefs were never true in the first place. Maybe you thought you couldn't start your own business, but then you took that first step and found that you could. Maybe you thought you weren't good at public speaking, but then you stood up, gave it a shot, and discovered you had a voice worth sharing. The key is to take small, consistent steps in the direction of your dreams, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Zig, what if I fail? And to that I say, so what? Failure is not the end, it's a part of the process. Every successful person you admire has failed at some point. The difference is they didn't let those failures stop them. They learned from them, grew from them, and kept moving forward. And that's exactly what you need to do, because every time you push through a limiting belief, you become stronger, more confident, and more capable. In conclusion, my friends, let me remind you of this. You are capable of far more than you give yourself credit for. The only limits that truly exist are the ones you accept. It's time to stop letting those limiting beliefs control your life. It's time to challenge them, replace them with empowering truths, and step boldly into your potential. Remember, the greatest breakthroughs come when you stop believing the lies and start believing in yourself. So take that first step. Keep going. And I'll see you at the top. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about one of the most important investments you'll ever make in your life yourself. Yet, isn't it ironic that so many of us put everything and everyone else first? We chase career success, meet family obligations, and fulfill endless demands, but we forget the foundation of it all, our own well-being. Let me tell you something I've learned over the years: you can't pour from an empty cup. If you want to live a life of significance and success, you've got to prioritize self-care. Now, before you think I'm asking you to be selfish, let me make this clear. Self-care isn't about indulgence, it's about responsibility. It's about taking care of the one asset you have that makes everything else possible you. When you neglect your physical, mental, and emotional health, everything else suffers. Your work, your relationships, and even your dreams all take a hit. But when you take the time to care for yourself, you're not just helping yourself, you're better equipped to help everyone else around you. Let's start with your physical health. Your body is the vehicle that carries you through life, and if you don't maintain it, it's going to break down. How many of us push ourselves to the brink, skipping meals, losing sleep, and telling ourselves we'll catch up on rest later? But let me tell you something, there is no later. The damage you do to your body today doesn't magically disappear tomorrow. Success doesn't mean working yourself into exhaustion. True success is about sustaining your energy and vitality so you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. Then there's your mental health. We live in a world that's constantly demanding our attention: emails, social media, deadlines, you name it. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, and when you do, your productivity and creativity take a nosedive. That's why it's so important to take time for yourself. Maybe it's a few moments of quiet reflection, a walk in nature, or simply saying no to commitments that drain you. Whatever it is, make it a priority. Because when your mind is clear, you're able to make better decisions, solve problems more effectively, and show up fully for the things that matter. And let's not forget about emotional well-being. Life is full of ups and downs, and if you're not emotionally grounded, those ups and downs will toss you around like a ship in a storm. Take time to process your emotions, to talk to someone you trust, or to journal your thoughts. Don't bottle things up. Remember, you're not a machine. You're a human being, and it's okay to feel. In fact, it's necessary. Now, some of you might be thinking, Zig, I don't have time for self-care. My plate is already full, but let me challenge that mindset. You don't have time not to care for yourself. Think about it when you're running on empty. Everything takes longer, and the quality of your work suffers. But when you're rested, focused, and energized, you get more done in less time. Self-care isn't a luxury, it's a productivity tool. Another thing to consider is the example you're setting. If you're constantly neglecting yourself, what message are you sending to those around you, your children, your colleagues, your friends? You're teaching them that self-neglect is normal, and that's a dangerous lesson. But when you prioritize your well-being, you're not just taking care of yourself, you're showing others that it's okay to do the same. You're creating a culture of balance and respect, and that's a legacy worth leaving. In conclusion, my friends, self-care is not selfish, it's essential. It's the foundation upon which every other success in your life is built. If you want to climb the ladder of success, you've got to make sure it's leaning against a solid wall. And that wall is your health and well-being. So take the time to rest, to recharge, and to care for yourself. Because when you do, you're not just investing in your own life, you're making a positive impact on everyone around you. Remember, you are worth it, and the world needs the best version of you. Take care of yourself, keep climbing, and I'll see you at the top. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. How often do you give yourself permission to pursue the things you truly desire? I'm not talking about what others expect of you or what seems practical. I'm talking about what sets your soul on fire. So many people live their entire lives holding themselves back, convincing themselves that their dreams are too big, too unrealistic, or too far out of reach. But let me tell you something, if you don't give yourself permission to go after your desires, no one else will. You see, desire is not something to be ashamed of or to suppress. It's a signal, a guidepost pointing you toward the life you were meant to live. But here's the problem: too many of us let fear, doubt, or guilt get in the way. We think, what if I fail, or what will people think, or worse, who am I to dream of something like that? Well, let me remind you that every great achievement in history began with someone daring to pursue a desire that seemed impossible at the time. I think about the Wright brothers. They dreamed of flying when the whole world said it couldn't be done. They faced ridicule and failure, but they didn't let that stop them. Why? Because they gave themselves permission to dream, to try, and to fail along the way. And because they did, they changed the course of history. Now, I want you to think about your own life. What dreams have you been putting on hold? What passions have you been ignoring because they don't seem practical, or because you're afraid of what others might say? Maybe you've always wanted to start a business, write a book, or travel the world. Maybe you've dreamed of going back to school, learning a new skill, or pursuing a creative passion. Whatever it is, I'm here to tell you that it's time to stop waiting for the right moment and start giving yourself permission to go after it. Here's the truth: the right moment doesn't exist. There will always be obstacles, challenges, and reasons to wait. But if you keep waiting, you'll wake up one day and realize that time has passed you by. And let me tell you, regret is a far heavier burden to carry than the fear of trying and failing. The only way to avoid that regret is to take action now, even if it's just a small step in the direction of your dreams. Now, some of you might be thinking, Zig, what if I pursue my desires and things don't work out? And to that I say, so what? Failure is not the opposite of success, it's a stepping stone to it. Every successful person you admire has faced setbacks, but they didn't let those setbacks define them. They learned from them, grew from them, and kept moving forward. The same will be true for you if you have the courage to take that first step. Another thing to remember is that giving yourself permission to pursue your desires isn't selfish. In fact, it's one of the most selfless things you can do. When you live a life that's true to yourself, you inspire others to do the same. You show your children, your friends, and your community what's possible when you follow your heart. And let me tell you, the world needs more people who are living with passion and purpose. So how do you start? First, get clear about what you really want. Take some time to reflect on your passions, your talents, and your deepest desires. Write them down. Then commit to taking action, no matter how small. Maybe it's enrolling in a course, reaching out to a mentor, or setting aside time each day to work on your goals. Whatever it is, start today. Because the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to take that first step. In conclusion, my friends, life is too short to live on the sidelines. You were not created to play small or to settle for less than you're capable of. You have dreams for a reason. They're part of who you are, and they deserve to be pursued. So stop waiting for permission from others and start giving it to yourself. Chase your desires with courage, determination, and faith, and you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. Remember, the only limits in life are the ones we place on ourselves. So break free, take that leap, and I'll see you at the top. Ladies and gentlemen, let me share something that can transform your life. The people you surround yourself with matter more than you think. They influence your thoughts, actions, and ultimately your destiny. It's often said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I believe there's truth to that. If you want to grow, achieve your dreams, and live a life of purpose, you've got to surround yourself with positive influences. Now, what do I mean by positive influences? These are the people who believe in you, who lift you up, and who challenge you to become the best version of yourself. They're the ones who celebrate your victories and encourage you in your struggles. They don't tear you down or fill your mind with negativity. Instead, they inspire you to aim higher, to push harder, and to keep going when the road gets tough. But here's the problem. Too many of us keep toxic influences in our lives. We hold on to relationships that drain us, discourage us, or make us feel small. Maybe it's because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or maybe we've just grown used to the nature of the negativity. Whatever the reason, those influences are like weights around your ankles. They hold you back from running the race you were meant to run. I remember a story about a young man who had big dreams of starting his own business. He shared his ideas with a friend, but instead of encouragement, he got a list of reasons why it wouldn't work. "It's too risky," the friend said. "You don't have enough experience. What if you fail?" That young man started to second-guess himself. He let that doubt take root, and for years he held back from pursuing his dream. It wasn't until he surrounded himself with people who believed in him, who told him, "You can do this," that he finally took the leap and achieved success. Now, think about your own life. Who are the people you spend the most time with? Are they building you up or tearing you down? Are they pushing you toward your goals or pulling you away from them? It might be uncomfortable to admit, but the truth is, not everyone in your life is meant to stay. Some relationships are for a season, and that's okay. What's important is that you're intentional about the company you keep. So how do you find positive influences? Start by seeking out people who share your values and aspirations. Look for mentors, friends, or colleagues who inspire you, who are living the kind of life you want to live. Spend time with those who challenge you to grow, encourage you to take risks, and remind you of your potential when you're tempted to give up. And remember, it's not just about what you can gain from others, it's also about what you can give. Be the kind of person who lifts others up, and you'll naturally attract the same kind of people into your life. Now, I'm not saying you should cut ties with everyone who doesn't meet these criteria, but I am saying that you need to protect your mind and your energy. If there are people in your life who constantly bring you down, limit your time with them. Set boundaries. Your dreams are too important to let negativity hold you back. In conclusion, my friends, you can't soar with the eagles if you're hanging around with turkeys. The people you surround yourself with will either fuel your success or hinder it. So choose wisely, build relationships that inspire, motivate, and uplift you. And don't be afraid to walk away from those that don't. Because when you surround yourself with positive influences, you're setting yourself up for a life of growth, achievement, and fulfillment. Remember, you were meant to fly, not to stay grounded. Surround yourself with those who help you spread your wings, and I'll see you at the top. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about one of the most liberating truths you'll ever embrace. You are not defined by your past. Too many people carry the weight of their mistakes, failures, and missed opportunities as if they're shackled to them. But let me tell you something, your past is not your prison. It's a classroom. It's a place to learn from, not a place to live in. If you want to move forward, you've got to let go of the past and focus on the opportunities ahead. Every single one of us has something in our past we're not proud of. Maybe it's a bad decision, a failed relationship, or a business venture that didn't pan out. Whatever it is, it's easy to let those moments define you. But the truth is, those experiences don't have the power to control your future unless you let them. You see, failure isn't final, and mistakes aren't permanent. They're just stepping stones on the path to success. I remember hearing about a man who once made a terrible business mistake that cost his company millions of dollars. He thought for sure he'd be fired. But when he met with his boss, the boss said something remarkable. "Why would I fire you? I just invested millions in your education." Now, think about that. What if you saw your own failures that way? What if, instead of beating yourself up, you look for the lessons? Because let me tell you, there are always lessons to be learned. One of the biggest lessons the past can teach us is resilience. When you've been knocked down and gotten back up, you discover a strength you didn't know you had. You learn that setbacks aren't the end, they're just a part of the journey. And the more you overcome, the more confident and capable you become. But to gain that resilience, you've got to stop looking back with regret and start looking forward with hope. Another thing to remember is that your past doesn't dictate your worth. Too many people tie their sense of value to their accomplishments or failures. But your worth isn't determined by what you've done, it's determined by who you are. You are a person of infinite potential, created with unique talents and gifts. No mistake, no failure, and no misstep can change that. Now, I'm not saying you should ignore your past or pretend it didn't happen. On the contrary, it's important to acknowledge it, to own your mistakes, and to make amends where necessary. But once you've done that, it's time to let it go. Dwelling on the past doesn't change it. It only robs you of the present and the future. It's like driving a car while staring in the rearview mirror. You're bound to crash. The windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror for a reason. Keep your eyes on where you're going, not where you've been. To move forward, you've got to focus on what you can control, the choices you make today. Every day is a fresh start, a new opportunity to grow, to learn, and to become the person you want to be. You can't change the past, but you can shape the future. And the first step is to believe that you're capable of change. Because you are. In conclusion, my friends, let me leave you with this. Your past is a chapter, not the whole book. It's a part of your story, but it doesn't define the ending. You have the power to write a new chapter, to turn the page and start fresh. So don't let the past hold you back. Learn from it, grow from it, and then let it go. Because the future is waiting, and it's brighter than you can imagine. Embrace it with courage, with faith, and with a heart full of hope. Keep moving forward, and I'll see you at the top.